Welcome to Invisible Strings, where we tug at the little threads that hold our lives together. From mental health and relationships to marriage, motherhood, and all the beautiful chaos in between. I'm Katie, your guide to navigating life's tangled web, one string at a time. Think of this as your weekly dose of insight, sprinkled with a bit of laughter, some heartfelt chats, and maybe even a happy tear or two. So, whether you're juggling a million things or you just need a break, let's untangle life together, because those invisible strings, they're what keep us connected. This is Invisible Strings. Let's get started. Hey friends, welcome back to Invisible Strings. I'm Katie, and I'm so glad that you're here. As in the season of giving and the season of reflection, of gratitude, I've been thinking a lot about what that looks like this year for us. I decided that the next couple weeks, we're going to be talking about a little bit about what we talked about last week, about not having to go so far and wide. Sometimes we go far and wide, and that's amazing. And you'll hear from somebody who did go far and wide, but that wasn't necessarily her plan. And man, God has used her and her little girl in such huge, gigantic ways. And I'm excited for you guys to hear her story. But I also wanted to talk about how we can go narrow and deep, and how our narrow and deep can actually create a ripple effect and become far and wide just with little things that we can do right here in our own towns, our own neighborhoods, in our own cities. I'm really excited for you to get a chance to hear from some of these people that are going to come and speak. It's going to give you some really good ideas. And really, like, one of the things that we're going to talk about is how our kids can serve. I'm just excited for you to hear about that. So we talked about narrow and deep last week, and I shared with you how I thought that I had to go far and wide to reach all the people and do all the things and make a huge impact. But I just kept hearing God saying, the greatest change can happen right here, like right where we're focused, right here. And it can happen within the four walls of your own home, in your neighborhood, schools, in just these small circles that we are in every single day. And it was something that I had learned originally from this Bible study that I've talked about that I've done in Charlotte. And the book that we had just finished was called Nehemiah, and it was a lot about the rubble and how God builds from our rubble, and that's our foundation. And it was incredible what Elizabeth did with all of this information and really creating this incredible picture of what Nehemiah is doing in this book and how we can relate it to our own lives. And, we're all sitting in rubble and sitting here and building on top of that, just taking what we've gone through, the struggles that we've had, and builds us up for his glory. And so I think that that is something that, since that Bible study has been finished for a week now, I think, I just can't get that picture out of my head. And I just really feel like God is talking to me about just starting small, just like this podcast, starting small and allowing it to grow if it's meant to grow. And so the same thing with our giving and how we can help, especially during this holiday season. I feel like a lot of people are struggling and they could use some help. And so that is my hope for the next few weeks. And I hope that you guys can get a lot out of it, whether you're here in the United States or in another country. I hope that some of these ideas will really help you to help other people. So, with all that to be said, we're going to shift gears a little bit, because what I felt like has been on my heart for the last week has been a couple things. I wanted to update you guys on what happened to me when I was in Chicago. I talked about the things that God had shown me when I went back there when I wasn't thinking I was gonna go back there, when I didn't think it was important, it wasn't worth it, I wasn't gonna make enough money, and what he showed me was relationships and people, because that's what it's about. It's not about the money, and it was incredible, and it was so beautiful, and because of that, my girlfriends that I talked about that I spent time with, um, we started a Bible study. And obviously, I don't live in Illinois, so we're doing it over Zoom. And we had our first one on Tuesday, and it was life giving. When I tell you, like, you don't have to be in the same city as somebody to be able to talk about Jesus, or just to be able to be there for them, seeing each other's faces, laughing. It was better medicine than any medicine I could ever take. And it's so funny because, like, my girls came in at one point, they talked to Melissa and Christina, and to me, I still felt like I was 18. And, Olivia's gonna be 17 in January. So it's so weird that I met my best girlfriends from college at the same age as basically my daughter is right now. It's what blows my mind. I'm like, you're gonna make the most amazing friends. You've already made the most amazing friends, these girls of mine, but I am so grateful for the yeses that we've continued to make, because it's not easy. Ladies, like, how many of you have a lot of time on weeknights to do something? But I think that's what we need to do. I think we need to cut things out, and I think we need to make decisions on the things that are going to fill us up the most. And it kind of takes me into what I want to talk about this week, which is insecurity and self-sabotage. I self-sabotage multiple times a day, and no one ever talks about it. So I thought, what a good thing to talk about, especially before the holidays when things get really crazy, which, you know what? Can we stop talking about that too? Like, let's stop using the word crazy and busy. That's such a strange way of answering a question. It's busy. We are all busy. We know. Let's stop glorifying it, right? So let's shift gears here and talk about insecurity. Insecurity can look like so many things. And I think that we don't even necessarily recognize it, even when it's happening to us. I think that I also don't think it looks the way we think it looks all the time. So it can kind of be tricky, and it can be loud, or it can be quiet. And it can look like comparison. It can look like perfectionism or overachievement or rudeness or withdrawal. It can look like all those things. And we all have it. I think that most of the time, I can say for certainty that most of the time, our insecurities stem from things that have happened to us in our childhood. And it shows up as we start to develop and become women and get married and have children. And if we can't catch it, it can get out of control. And it can affect so many people in your life. It affects yourself, obviously. It can affect your marriage and your friendships and your job and your children. And we never want that. Like, none of us want that, but it's what happens. And so I think naming it, or naming some of them, and then seeing and kind of recognizing them, and that takes slowing down too. And that takes not being crazy, and that takes time. And so I was going to throw some of these out here. And we all have been these people, or we've known these people, or where were these people right now? So some of the insecurities that show up in women as we get older, or since we were younger, is over apologizing. Saying I'm sorry, basically for existing or having needs. So how many of us out there have a really hard time asking for help? Both of my hands are up in the air right now. It's hard asking for help, because when you ask for help, you're being vulnerable. When you're being vulnerable, you don't feel like you're in control. And so, and it looks like you don't have it together. And somewhere along the line, we've created these lives where we have to look like we have it together. But I'm going to be the first person to say, I do not have it together. this whole entire topic that I'm talking about today is because this is something that I just keep hearing and feeling and seeing and experiencing myself. Now, I don't over apologize anymore, but I used to do that all the time. And then I saw my daughters doing it. And also, it was hard for them to ask for help. And I'm like, wait a second. You guys have needs and you do need to ask for help. And so do I. The next one's people pleasing, trying to earn love or validation by keeping everyone around you happy. I don't know why we do this. Maybe it's something that happened in childhood. I know I have 4 kids and each of them has their own little like quirks. And I know that one of them wants to make sure everybody's happy all the time. And I think specifically me. Me. I'll be the first to say that when I start to feel out of control, like I'll tell you when I start to feel out of control, it's when I walk into my house and it's a mess. And it doesn't matter if I had just spent the entire morning cleaning it. If everyone has come home and I am walking in after everyone's been there for an hour or two, it's like a tornado and I get overwhelmed. And maybe that's the loss of control. I don't know. But I think in my mind, I just feel like I need to now clean all of this up, but I don't. I need to ask people to do it. So I will be the first to admit that I'm sure that my kids want to make sure I'm happy because when I get that way, when I feel out of control like that, I will just word vomit. I'll word vomit like just, and I'm like, babe, Brad, can you please help me? You're my best friend. Can you please be like, babe, throw me over your shoulder and take me out of the house? Like, I'm probably gonna get mad at you if you say something to me, but I also need you to do that. So, our husbands need to get more credit because I think we're a lot sometimes. So, people pleasing, comparison. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Comparison, scrolling through social media and feeling like everyone else is doing so much better in life. And like, we're all going to sit here and be like, we know it's not real. We know it's fake, whatever. Like you're going on that trip, but your marriage is falling apart. Like, I hope not. But you know what I'm saying? I know there's a lot of people out there like nodding their heads right now. Yes, absolutely. We do it ourselves. I look at pictures sometimes. Like I looked at a picture from you guys. This actually like breaks my heart a little bit, but I'm being really vulnerable right now. So there is a picture that I took of my babies when I had Jack, and there's this picture in my mind of what I wanted. This black and white classic picture of them all snuggled together on the floor and holding Jack. And I remember like they were so good. They were so good. They were such good little kids. And like they didn't do anything wrong. And I'm like postpartum. I'm pulling out my camera. I'm leaking all over my shirt. And I'm like, guys, come on, let's get it together. And I remember being like, not happy while I was doing that picture, but that should be happy. Like that's the most joyous time. Look at these 4 perfect babies. So I remember, and then but then the picture was perfect and like, yay. And then I post it and like, I can't imagine what some people were probably like, wow, I have 2 kids. How does she have 4 kids? And look at this picture. It's amazing. I don't understand. And so just to be real about pictures, obviously, uh, I was not happy while I was taking that picture. That's silly. And then we sit here and we compare ourselves to that kind of stuff. And obviously, we don't want to get online and post awful situations. But I think if, in person, we can be more transparent with each other and be like, yeah, no, that is a cute picture, but I cried for 45 minutes before that picture was taken. So there's that. Um, Comparison is another way that we let insecurity ruin what we're doing. Everyone knows the type A personality, right? Someone who needs to be in control. And really, honestly, like I think we all do long for some control. So this is not just type A personalities. This is type A, B, and C. Um, just because you don't keep a clean house or have the perfect outfit on, your kids aren't all wearing collared shirts with their monogram on it, doesn't mean that you also don't enjoy having control over things. I think we all feel a little bit of security around control. So, um, but micromanaging everything because we are deep down feeling fear of being out of control. And maybe that's something that happened when you're younger. Again, like you didn't have control over, you know, who you were with or what you were eating. I know that Whitney struggles with that sometimes. She had some texture issues with food when she was younger, and she felt anxious because she didn't know if like the next meal was going to be something she could eat and she was hungry. Isn't that sad? I didn't know that. Like I didn't know when she was 2 and 3 years old that that was something that she was struggling with. I knew she didn't like peas and I don't know. I can't even remember now, but it wasn't talked about as much back then, like the texture and like she could have seen a therapist for that, like not like a brain therapist, a occupational therapist to help her with that. That would have been really helpful. I would have loved to someone to have told me that back then. Um, but that's where her control of food and like what's at the house and is it's kind of from that from when she was younger. And then of course we have self-doubt, that little voice inside your head that always says, who do you think you are? And let's like, for example, like some imposter syndrome. I remember starting this. And again, like I didn't have any experience in speaking. I didn't have any experience in podcasts. I didn't even know what I was doing. I was literally listening to the direction of God, being like, this is it. This is how you're going to talk to people and how you're going to help people um, in my name. And I just figured it out. And I'm still figuring it out. Like, I don't do video podcasts. And quite frankly, like, I don't, it's okay for me to not do video podcasts because I can't do it. Like, I can't figure out the video with the two different microphones. And I try to do it with guests. And it's one of the reasons why guests are hard for me is because I want them to come to the studio and like experience this, but I need help with that. So again, I need to ask for help. And I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to. If you guys know anybody, send them my way. So oftentimes insecurity stems from a wound. And like I said before, maybe it's in childhood, or maybe it was from rejection or from words spoken over us that we believed. I remember when I was in middle school, I got on the bus one morning and this kid, and I remember his name and I'm not going to say it, was like, you have a double chin. I did not have a double chin. But can I tell you from that moment on, I was like, my chin goes from the end of my chin to like my chest. It didn't. It did not do that at that time. It did that a long time later, but it didn't do that at that time. But the amount of times I looked in the mirror after that in 6th grade was unacceptable. How do we get rid of these insecurities? Like, how do we do that as women? It's a question that I continue to ask myself. If I notice that someone is beautiful or they have beautiful hair, or they have a really cool outfit on, or I love their shoes or whatever, I tell them. I was at Target the other day and this woman, she catches my eye in like 1 second. She was beautiful. She had the most beautiful red hair I'd ever seen. And I stopped her and I'm like, I just have to tell you that you are really beautiful. I know that sounds weird, but your hair is gorgeous and you're just striking. And I just want you to know that. And she was like, what? Oh my gosh, you just like made my day. Like, we should do that more. How small, narrow, and deep, you guys. You can give someone a compliment every day or multiple people. Surprise them. People are always surprised by compliments. And when we don't recognize these insecurities, and there's many more, these are just 5. But when we don't recognize them, they affect our relationships. They can affect our parenting and our friendships and even our calling. We don't have time for that. We don't have space for that. I'm going to take this moment to tell a story about feeling insecure, about me and my pride and me judging, and then God kind of laughing, giving it back to me. So obviously, I had two girls first, and they were amazing. And they were 17 months apart, and they behaved really well. They were little girls that loved dresses, and they loved dressing up, and they loved sports, and they loved dance and singing and gymnastics and all those things. And they were so well behaved. And I had a lot of friends that had little boys. And we all know that boys are very different than little girls. And for anyone out there being like, oh, you don't know my little girl, listen, if you have a wild little girl, that's amazing. This is my experience though. So in my experience, my girls were loud and they were crazy, but they were nothing like my boys. So my friends had boys, and I would think to myself, wow, they need to get them under control. That looks like a mess. Feel really bad for them. Judge, judge, judge. Wow. So get pregnant for number 3. And the doctor's like, you're having a boy. And I was so excited and gave birth to William and was instantly madly in love with him. And he was my guy. And he was my guy. And then Jack was born, and William was 3. And William was still my guy. But then he started acting different when all the attention wasn't on him anymore. And he was wild. And Jack is wild, and he's still wild. And I just remember thinking to myself, you guys have to be quiet. You can't be so loud. Stop running around. Oh my gosh, everyone's judging me. And why would I think that everyone was judging me? Well, because I was judging people. So I remember saddling up next to moms with little boys and asking for help and advice, because even though I had 2 other kids, this was a new beast. I still need help. The energy level is not of this world. So, that's one story of mine where I felt like I was definitely insecure, but I was also the one who was making other people insecure. And when I realized my insecurity wasn't actually about other people, because I was embarrassed. I was like, wow, I look like I'm out of control. I look like a mess. I look like I don't know what I'm doing. I don't look like I have it together. And I actually believe that about myself. And you know what? Like, honestly, I didn't. I did not have it together. I was out of control. There was a lot of stuff going on, and that's okay. But that's when I started to heal. And that's when I started to realize, like, you just did the same exact thing to somebody else. And it makes you take a step back and think, okay, how can I help other moms now that I've recognized that I've done that and it's been done to me? So that is insecurities. That's something we all face, whether we're women or men. But self-sabotage is a whole nother beast, because we do it all the time to ourselves and no one ever talks about it. We talk about how busy we are. We talk about how crazy we are, but we do it to ourselves. Like, we are the reason why it's happening. And I think that insecurities often lead us to self-sabotage. Self-sabotage is when we get in our own way. We consciously or subconsciously, and for me, it's mostly subconsciously, and we stop ourselves from the very things we want. that can look like something different for everybody also. So like procrastinating right before something big. I do this all of the time. Talking ourselves out of opportunities. I do that all the time too. I'm getting better at it though. So it's too hard. It's too far away. I don't think they like me. Who's going to be there? Those kind of things that we're telling ourselves so that we don't get to experience the very things that God wants for us. Picking fights in our relationships because deep down we're feeling fear of being left. So it's funny because I'll talk to Brad, and this hasn't happened in a really long time, but I remember that big things would be happening and one of us would be annoyed or bothered and we get into a fight. And it's always about something not important. But it was like we were self-sabotaging ourselves for this exciting thing that was about to happen. So weird. Quitting before we can fail. I have to put up a sign outside of my studio, which I'm so excited about doing. And I'm doing it. Like I'm designing it and it's being printed. But I also had the opportunity to have the mayor come down and do like a ribbon cutting ceremony. I don't want to do that. I'm doing everything I can possibly do not to do that. And my husband's like, why don't you want to do that? That's amazing. You can get great pictures. You can get, people will know who you are and where you are. And I'm like, but what if I fail? What if it doesn't work? But what if? And like, that's a really, really small little kind of corner in my mind because I don't think it will fail. And I know this was divinely orchestrated. And so I'm not really that concerned about it, but I can see myself. It kind of feels like quitting before I can fail because it would be embarrassing if I failed. And what would it look like to people if I failed? And so that is something that kind of creeps up a little bit sometimes. I think that we self-sabotage because we fear disappointment or rejection or not being enough. And sometimes we've lived in chaos for so long that peace feels unfamiliar. Like stop for a second and think about that. We have been in chaos for so long that peace feels unfamiliar. And our brains and the neuroplasticity wants what's comfortable. Like it's going to go the easiest route. Like it does not want something hard. And it's interesting because being comfortable is not what we're called to be. I know we want to be comfortable. We want the house, we want the cars, we want the vacations, but that's not living. That's not really life. And we're not called to be comfortable. It's not easy here. Most of us know that. So some of the ways that I self-sabotage is waking up in the morning and getting on my phone and looking at social media. That's an automatic. Your day is not going to go correctly just because of the time. And like get up out of bed and go do the things you need to do, like make breakfast and lunch and get the kids up and get dressed and like look presentable. The second thing I do, these are the two worst things, I think. I think they're my worst. The second thing that I do is I will not go to bed early. And I need to go to bed early. I have to. It's good for my mental health. It's good for all of my health. Going to bed early is what we're supposed to do. For some reason, this girl right here can stay up till 3:00 in the morning and do nothing. And I always say it's because I need like time alone. No, I don't. I need to be sleeping. That's what I need to be doing. That's my second really bad self-sabotage move that I do. And then I'm like miserable the next day. And that's not good. Third is I will not eat enough food. I'll drink coffee and won't eat enough food. And then I crash. You see, it's just like one big cycle after another. And I'm doing it to myself. So those are 3 things that I've been working on. And it's been a couple days and it's been okay. Today I got up. I took the dogs for a walk. I worked out. I drove Elaine to school. And then I went on to a photo shoot. I didn't even look at my phone. I reposted something that a client had posted of me. And then I came here to do this. Today has been a good day, but tomorrow might not be. I'm hoping it will, but it might not be. And I know we can all agree with that. So think about this. How many times have you said, I'll start when things calm down, or I'm not ready yet, or I'll never be as good as her? That's self-sabotage talking. And it's sneaky because it often sounds rational. And I feel like here is what has helped. And I think this helps a lot of people is to first recognize the pattern. So awareness is the first step for everything, right? When you're aware of what you're doing or what someone's doing to you, then that's like the first step. The second step is to name the fear. So, like, what are you really afraid of? Failure or success? Because we can be afraid of success. It seems like an oxymoron, but because we want to be successful, but there's a lot of fear in success too. Replace the lie. If the lie is, I'm not enough, replace it with, I'm equipped and chosen. God will give me every single thing that I need to fulfill whatever it is He wants me to do. I don't need more money to do it. I don't need more time. I don't need a different day. I need to be obedient in what I'm supposed to be doing. Take micro steps. Don't aim for perfection. Aim for progress. The same as what I was talking about earlier and last week was narrow and deep. Small steps that will turn into big steps. But let's start small. And once you accomplish the one small, will turn into 2, 3, and 4. And your brain starts to feel good because you're accomplishing the things that you're setting out for. And the things are small things. So take the micro steps. And my biggest thing is surround yourself with truth tellers. People who remind you who you are. People who are working hard at knowing who they are to help remind you who you are. When we heal from insecurity and self-sabotage, we start turning outward. Instead of focusing on what we lack, we start seeing where we can give. Instead of comparing, we start connecting. Instead of shrinking, we start showing up and growing. And as we head into the holidays, I want to challenge all of us to go narrow and deep to impact the people right around us. So here's a few ideas to start you thinking about what we'll be talking about in the next few weeks. Drop off groceries or a meal for a single mom. Write a handwritten note to a teacher or a coach. You guys, I have a quick story on this because it means so much when you get any sort of note or card or anything from anybody. And do you realize that, like, when these little notes come home from, I don't know, maybe it's a friend or colleague or your baby or their friends, I feel like they come right at the most amazing times. And for me, they come at when I least expect it. And it's always like a little God wink for sure. So my kid, Jack, plays travel soccer, and we're close with the families on our team. And the families on our team have daughters that are close with each other, and they're in middle school. And one of them wrote me the most beautiful note the other day. She's in 6th grade. And I just have to read it to you because when I was feeling insecure and not feeling like I was doing enough or I was being enough or I had any sort of impact on anybody, I get this note. Dear Miss Katie, I can't believe it's already been a whole year since you shared your story about your panic attacks. It helped me see how much God can help us when we trust Him, even when we are scared. You've brought me so much closer to Jesus this past year. The way you talk about your faith and how you always find joy in God, even when things aren't perfect, means so much to me. You're such a strong Christian and a great example of what it looks like to live for Him every day. I love your podcast. It's amazing to see how God is using your story to reach so many people. I always learn something new from the way you share your heart and remind everyone to keep trusting God. I made you a bracelet as a little thank you gift. I wanted you to know how much I appreciate you and how much you have helped me grow in my faith. You have made a big difference in my life, and I am so thankful that God let me know you. And she drew the most beautiful cross with the most beautiful flowers, and she made me the most beautiful bracelet that says, I am loved. You guys, I was so shocked, so surprised. And I'm just saying from my own experience, like, I'm humbled. I'm so humbled and I'm so grateful that I've been given this platform to, if it's just one person, it that can turn into 100. So another way that you can help is volunteer at a local shelter or a youth program. There's so many in every single one of your towns. It's not hard to find them. Offer to take photos for a family who can't afford a photographer. That's one of my favorite things to do. Invite a neighbor who might be lonely to join your Thanksgiving table. You see somebody and they tell you they're not doing anything for the holidays. What's one more person at that table? It might not be perfect, but it could change their entire life. So these acts might seem small, but they can create a ripple effect. Invisible strings that connect hearts, one act at a time. As we wrap up today, remember this. You don't have to have it all together to make a difference. We don't have to be perfect. We have to stop self-sabotaging. You don't have to be fearless to step out, and you don't have to go far and wide to change the world. Just go narrow and deep. Go to your neighbor's house. Healing from insecurity and stepping out of self-sabotage starts with seeing yourself the way God sees you, loved, capable, and worthy. So this week, let's love well. Let's serve deeply, and let's be the hands and feet of Jesus right where we are. Thanks for listening to Invisible Strings this week. If this episode spoke to you, please share it with a friend, leave a review, and join me next week as we continue to unravel the beautiful connections that make us who we are. Have an amazing weekend. Thank you for joining me today on this episode of Invisible Strings, where we've tugged at a few threads and hopefully left you with a smile and something to think about. Remember, life's connections might be invisible, but they're oh so strong. If you enjoyed today's chat, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a little string pulling in their life. Until next time, keep those invisible strings intact, and I'll see you back here soon for more heartfelt conversations and a dash of fun. Stay connected, stay kind, and keep untangling.